So this is the backside of your toolkit with multiplying integers and dividing integers. So first we're going to explore a number pattern, which I've already filled out some of this before recording here. So it says to find the pattern in the numbers below in order to generalize what happens when you multiply numbers with different signs. Put your generalizations in the box below. And I went ahead and I added some notes here from our game in class with the hot air balloon example, because I think it's helpful to remember when multiplying what the rules are with addition and subtraction, because we can always think of multiplication as doing groups of, as adding groups of something, or subtracting groups of something if it's negative, negative. So with adding positives, that's like adding puffs of hot air, which would make the balloon go up. With subtracting positives, that's like removing hot air, which would make the balloon go down, because hot air rises, so when we remove that, we sink. Adding negatives would be like adding sandbags, and that would make us go down overall. And then removing sandbags would have the opposite effect of making the hot air balloon lighter and helping it to rise. So when we fill out this table, we can see, well, we've got 3 groups of 3 puffs of hot air, which is going to make us go up 9 spaces on the number line. 3 groups of 2 puffs of hot air would make us go up 6. 3 groups of 1 puff of hot air would make us go up 3. 3 groups of 0 would make us go up 0. And I also noticed this pattern on the side that each time that I do one less puff of hot air, it makes me go down 3. So 3 groups of, this would be removing hot air 3 times, would make me go down 3 spaces. Removing 2 puffs of hot air 3 times would make me go down 6 spaces, and removing 3 puffs of hot air 3 times would make me go down to negative 9. So I can see a clear pattern there. On this side, we're kind of starting with the negative numbers, and we can think about that as sandbags. So we can think about this situation as adding sandbags. If we add 3 groups of 3 sandbags, that'll make us go down 9 spaces. Adding 3 sandbags 2 times would make us go down 6 spaces. Adding 3 sandbags 1 time would make us go down 3 spaces. Adding 3 sandbags 0 times would make us go down nothing at all, 0. And then when I've got a negative times a negative, that's like removing sandbags. So if I remove 3 sandbags 1 time or 1 sandbag 3 times, that's going to have the effect of going up 3. And I can see that pattern that each time it's getting kind of increasing by 3. So if I remove 3 sandbags 2 times or remove 2 sandbags 3 times, we go up another 3. And if I remove 3 sandbags 3 times, then I've got the 9. And remember that the sandbags is one of the negative numbers and the removal is the other negative in that analogy. So generalizing, we can see that when we have a positive times a positive, we always get a positive result. Multiplication is really nice because we can see clearly, we can memorize these signs and generally be successful with multiplying integers that way. A negative times a positive, over here I see a negative times positives, and over here I can see that it's always a negative result. A positive times a negative is just the opposite. It doesn't matter because multiplication is commutative. If you have one negative and one positive, it's the same whether the positive number is first or not, so that will still be a negative. Remember, commutative means that the order doesn't matter. You could switch the order and you're still multiplying the same numbers, so the effect is the same. And then a negative times a negative is seen over here. Negative times negative gives us positive results. Now, because division, our analogies break down, we really just want to think of division as how it relates to multiplying. And so the rules are pretty much the same. If we have a positive number and we divide it by a positive number, we're going to get a positive result. If we have one negative and one positive, our result will be negative. It doesn't matter which number is negative. It just matters that a negative and a positive, when combined with multiplication or division, will give you a negative result. And a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. Math students often say that 2 negatives cancel each other out. So what if you multiply 3 negative numbers together, or 4 or 5? So I'll have you guys think about that with this example. 3 negatives So let's just think about negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, or we could write this as negative 2 cubed. So if I have negative 2 times negative 2, we can just do this multiplication left to right because it's all multiplication. I would have positive 4, and then 4 times negative 2 equals negative 8. So we can see the result of 3 negatives is a negative number here. Let's look at 4 negatives. With negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Make that a little bit more clear. Maybe that's less clear. We could think about this as negative 2 to the 4th power. We're going to have negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And then 4 times negative 2 equals negative 8. And then negative 8 times negative 2 equals negative times a negative is a positive, so that'd be 16. So that equals a positive. This one is negative. And so what do you think would happen if we had another odd number of negatives, 5 negatives? It seems like every single time when you've got an odd number of negatives, like here, you're going to have the first two make a positive, and then the third one will make, or the odd one out will end your number as a negative answer or solution. And if you have an even number, well then every time the sign is going to alternate when you multiply by a negative number, but in the end, the even ones should cancel out. Well, not cancel out, but should create a positive result. So in general, if there are an even number of negative integers, the product will be positive. And if there are an odd number of negative integers, the product will be negative. Okay, that's the end.